Hey everybody in Engineering 12 Lab. My name is Tom Rebold. I'm the instructor for the class, and this here is our assistant, Rachel Lauter.
Hi everybody.
So this video is just going to present an overview of the lab kit that you got either in the mail or you picked up in the class, and we'll just go through the components a little bit to give you a little heads up on what's there so you can kind of be aware of what to look for. So Rachel's going to plop that down into the web camera, the document camera, and start showing off the stuff.
Yeah, so this is pretty much how your webcam, your kit comes, complete with hopefully a list of what you have in here.
And all that stuff better be in there when it comes back.
So I'll let you guys get that out so you can follow along with us. First of all, let me just kind of go through a very brief overview of what everything is, where it is, what it looks like, and then we'll go into detail a little bit later. So pretty much, they may be set up slightly differently for you, but we'll just kind of go through what's what. Should be fairly obvious. This is your multimeter. We'll go more in depth on this a little bit later. Here's some cables for you. This is actually a little 1/8 inch or 3.5 millimeter male-to-male audio cable. It's actually fairly standard. We'll be using that in the lab much later on in the semester.
You'll be able to hook up your iPhone or whatever to your circuit and play audio through your circuit using that cable.
Right, that's this guy here.
Mm-hmm.
So this next one is a USB cable. This will be for programming. Here's what the other side looks like. Be used for programming the Arduino later on. Again, this is a later lab, later in the semester. We also have some, well, here's another box inside of your box. They pretty much look all the same. There may be a slightly different configuration with the compartments and the numbers, but we've labeled them so that at least if yours looks a little different, the numbers will be consistent that you can see here. So they're not always in the same order, but when you do see a number for this kit, it should be consistent.
And the number shows up on your packing list.
So you'll see that this is mostly in the all of these
so
on
this
top.
bin number there is what corresponds to the number on the plastic container.
All right.
So all the resistors, actually the first three sets of resistors are in this bin number 1.
Yeah, we'll go over in a little more detail what that all looks like. All right, so we have some more cables. You actually will have at least one more cable that looks yellow. It might be in a package, neatly rolled up, but essentially you'll have clips on one end, little alligator clips. On the other end you'll have something called a banana clip. That's what that looks like. It's good for connecting certain things, but we'll go over that more. There's also a tool in there, screwdriver. It does happen to have 2 different ends. You can see that there's a flat head on one side, Phillips on the other, and that just slides into this little white thing.
Probably all you're going to use it for is prying up chips from the breadboard.
Or changing your potentiometer settings.
That's true, or changing your potentiometer settings.
We also have, you just mentioned a breadboard. That's what this piece is. May look slightly different to you, but basically they're all pretty much set up the same. And one of your labs, actually the first lab I believe, goes over what all of this is, how it connects together, and how we're going to use it. Here's another little box, a little kit, and this is basically connecting wires, color-coded for length. Oh, sorry, there's a little bit of a glare on there. Anyway, it's just a clear box with various colored wires in it that have different lengths. Great for connecting wires on your breadboard. We also, over here in this corner, these black things, these are power supplies. You'll recognize them as something that looks pretty similar to a lot of your electronic devices. Just goes into your wall outlet, and this other side here will connect to actually a little port that we will put into the breadboard. So this will just go into a standard wall outlet, and there are actually 2 of them. We often use 2 sides of the breadboard for various projects. So you should have 2 of these. We have a white box that's labeled speaker, and inside of that you'll actually find a little packaged and a little bubble wrap, probably a little speaker. We'll use that in the lab later on as well. If you would, probably be best to keep that wrapped up, just because the front here is a little bit delicate. It's easy to put a hole in it, so try not to handle these too roughly. Otherwise, you might end up damaging the speaker.
And that'll cost you 67 cents.
Well, and the pain of getting it shipped to you.
Yes.
Here's our Arduino board that we talked about with this USB cable. Again, that's going to come into play a little bit later on in the semester. It's actually a really cool little piece. And lastly, this big box here, Analog Discovery. Really cool little tool. I won't open it up, the whole box right now, but this is what it looks like. It should be a couple of different cables in there, but this is going to be used as a test equipment later on. Also a virtual oscilloscope, several other really cool tools in there. And again, that's later on in the semester when we get to more signal stuff and AC currents. So that's the end of my box. Here, we don't have any more stuff left, so make sure as you're going through your box that you are able to go down the entire list of things. Make sure everything's complete.
Yeah.
Obviously, if we're missing something, we want to know sooner rather than later, so that we can get that equipment to you. So here's our smaller box. Actually, maybe zoom in a little bit here.
Sure.
This is going to be the component kit. And this is going to be on your list of equipment. It'll be the top section of the sheet here. I'll just show this to you briefly. It's basically going to be all the stuff that you see right there. I'm not going to spend much time showing this to you because you should have this in your kit. But there you go. So what we'll do is we'll actually open this up. And here we go with basically what's in this box. In these 3 containers labeled 1, 2, and 3 in these sections, you're going to find resistors. Generally they go in order of increasing resistance. Again, you'll learn more about this in the labs. Goes from, there should be 3 separate little packages of each resistor. Not very focused.
Focus is a little bit off, yeah.
Let's see if we can...
Ah, much better.
There we go. So in this box, we should have 3 different little packages. Basically, there's 5 resistors each, kind of taped together, and they'll all have different colors on them. In fact, that's the first lab, is identifying what the resistors are. So you're going to have 15 in each box, or in each container, rather, each section. So they go in increasing order of resistance. So number 4, and in this kit, it's in this corner. In bin number 4, we have some capacitors, and they have different shapes. You'll learn about that later. This is one type. There's a couple here that look like little pieces of chewing gum, as we were discussing earlier.
I love those, yeah.
There's also one slightly larger component. Again, you'll go over this much later, but this is called an inductor. Looks like a little barrel, but it doesn't have the same labeling as these blue, and I guess these are kind of black and white, but this one just doesn't have the same labeling except on top.
It's much heavier too.
And it's heavier, yeah. It actually has a little iron core in it. Anyway, I guess you can't really see that. There we go.
Yep.
So that's the inductor. Bin number 5 is this one. You should see, you'll probably recognize these little red pieces here. Small little LEDs, they're called. There's also, pull these out. If you can see that. I don't know if I can show it very easily. Let's see if it'll focus.
Yeah, nice.
There you go.
Got it. Oops.
Kind
Got to
of.
keep your hand at the same level.
Trying. So, anyway, this is called a photocell. Sometimes also known as a photoresistor. And actually its resistance changes as the amount of light hits its surface. And there should be 2 of those, and then this one, a 7-segment display. Basically, there's going to be little 7 LEDs in there. and you'll learn how to connect those, make them light up, do different things. So bin 6 is going to be this one, at least on this kit. In bin 6, we find some diodes.
Our nonlinear devices.
Yeah, kind of look like resistors. They're actually in a clear housing, though. And they don't have the same markings as resistors.
And you only have 4.
And you only have 4. That should be a distinguishing feature. We have transistors. You'll see that there are 3 leads for all these transistors. Sorry about the focus, but they also have a flat side on this top part here. One side's flat, the other side is round. What else is in here? We have some momentary switches. That's these little tiny black things. Let's see if I can show you a little bit more clearly. There it is. Has 2 leads on it, and there's actually a little tiny push button.
Spring-loaded.
Spring-loaded that you'll get right there.
So those are, it connects the wires.
And those are called momentary switches, and the reason they're momentary is that when you push it and release it, it doesn't stay pushed. So only a momentary, only while your finger's holding it does it in fact connect as a switch. So that's bin 6. Now we have bin 7 here. 2 different types of things. We have, they look very similar, but they are different. This one's the audio jack. Has a little hole for the audio cable that we showed you earlier. This one with the little standard ends on it. This also has 5 pins, so that's what makes this different than this other piece that's in here, and there should be 2 of these, but this is actually your power connector. This is your DC, they call it a barrel jack. It has a little pin in the middle, if you can look at that closely, and it only has 3 leads. So although these look similar, they are different, and they'll be used for different things. And lastly, bin 8, we have several different components. Let's see, what do we have? A potentiometer, that's these blue things, or otherwise called a variable resistor.
And some kits just have, they're like just little blue boxes. They don't have a shaft coming out.
Instead of this, not the white shaft,
Yeah.
It's just a little inset thing, which is actually, and for those, that's where this comes in handy.
Mm-hmm.
There's also an op amp, operational amplifiers. That's these little, they look kind of like bugs if you've never seen an integrated circuit before, or an IC. They have several different pins on the bottom, 8 in this case. Otherwise they just have a black squarish or rectangular housing there. And what else do we have?
Make sure you don't poke your fingers when you handle those. Like, those leads can be kind of sharp too.
Yeah, and these are regulators. 3 leads, little heat sink at the top. Same or similar little black casing there. Does very different things as the last component though. So there you go, and these will all be much clearer in labs to come. So don't worry about it if you're not sure the names or the meanings or what they do. Just make sure you try not to mix them up, especially if you're unfamiliar with these components. And that's the kit here.
Anyway, that's the kit, and this is the starting point of all the labs we'll be doing in the rest of the class. You get to know all these things at a very detailed level.
So there you go. If you have any questions, obviously you know who to contact. And if you are unsure about how to put this kit back together, if you get components mixed up, feel free to reference this video again, and hopefully you can get it put back together and learn what these components are.
Till next time, over and out.